Africa. Some of them are already in the night session. The people joining from Canada, the US, they're still in there. But especially today is July 4th. So let me especially celebrate and wish all the Americans joining us happy independence. It's a privilege to be alive to see another 4th of July for the American audience. And thank God for developments in the US. And we hope for things to get much better with time. Let me also appreciate anybody joining. It's Friday. Some people are getting back from work. Some people are still at work. Some people are at various places. So let me thank you for joining us. Today's session is supposed to be a bit brief. I wouldn't be spending so much of time. But my goal is to talk about university rankings and accreditation in Nigeria and Canada. I decided to talk about this because I realize that many parents and applicants are making a lot of choices, believing that what they're doing is the best, but they may be making some mistakes in terms of their choices. Many parents and applicants use ranking alone to determine what universities to attend. Some think about accreditation alone. So my goal is to talk about rankings and accreditations of university, and specific to universities. I'm not talking about colleges or polytechnics or colleges of education or school of nursing. I'm specifically talking about university ranking and accreditation. So let's get started. Thanks for joining me. For all those that have joined, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. So let's get started. Thank you, Mr. Yutunji, you joined. So let's get started by just defining things. I'm a teacher, so we always start by defining what we're talking about. So let's start by talking about the definition of accreditation versus good evening, Mr. Yutunji, ranking. So what is accreditation? Accreditation is a legal and regulatory process that gives a school or a university, in this case, the permission to run a program. Again, accreditation is a legal and regulatory process by which a government agency or a regulator certifies that a university meets some standard. That is accreditation. In Canada, for example, accreditation is done on a provincial level. So, for example, the Ontario University Council on Quality Assurance is responsible for accreditation. In Nigeria, accreditation is done by two levels of regulators. One, the university regulator, which is Nigeria University Commission, based on the law setting it up, the National Minimum Standard and Establishment of Institutions Act, Cap A3 of 2004, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, gives the Nigeria Universities Commission the power and the authority to accredit programs. So that is accreditation. Now, in Nigeria, there is another type of accreditation called professional accreditation, which gives professional bodies, professional regulators, the authority to accredit programs. So that's accreditation. Again, I remember I said accreditation is a legal or regulatory process by which a government agency determines and certifies that a university has met a standard. And I mentioned the government agency that does that in Nigeria and also in Canada, being specific to Ontario. Now, the second thing to define is ranking. A university ranking is a commercial evaluation done by organizations, typically to compare universities. Remember I mentioned accreditation. Accreditation measures the universities against the standard. Oh, University of Ibadan, University of Lagos, Abofemolo University, Federal University of Canada. Have you met the standard? That's what accreditation does. So accreditation says this is the standard, have you met it? That's all it does. But ranking is done to compare universities. Remember the word is ranking. So the goal is to have a first, a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, based on several diameters. So what is therefore important is what are the basic differences between ranking and accreditation? So I'm going to use four things to show the difference. One is who does it? Is it mandatory or not? What is covered or who is covered? And finally, are there legal consequences? So let me start it. Who does what? In an accreditation, it's a regulator that does it. In the case of Nigeria, is the National University Commission and the various professional organizations. Accreditation is done by a regulator, typically a government agency. Ranking is typically done by a non-profit or a for-profit organization, typically owned by the private sector or a social sector. So again, who does accreditation? Regulators. Who does ranking? Individuals and organizations, typically in the private sector or that are in the social sector. Okay, that's who does it. Let's look at another dimension to show the difference between ranking and accreditation. What is the purpose of ranking? The purpose of ranking is quality assurance. Does this program meet the standard we have set? Does it meet the requirement of the standard we have set? So the purpose of accreditation is quality assurance. They want to assure the public that this university has the quality of the program is up to the standards required. However, what is the purpose of ranking? One, to show prestige, to show skill, to show visibility, or to show strength, right? So the goal of ranking is to show prestige, visibility, strength, and comparative performance. Remember, ranking is ordinary ranking, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, okay? Now, let's use another dimension to show the difference between ranking and accreditation. Accreditation is mandatory. You must accredit a program before you can go ahead with it. You must get permission to start, and you must meet certain level of accreditation, which I'll talk about later. It's mandatory. You must be accredited before you can run a program in law, in medicine, in journalism, or whatsoever. Ranking is voluntary. You can choose not to rank, to be part of a ranking process. You can choose not to be. Again, because accreditation is mandatory, all universities are involved. But not all universities go for rankings. Actually, I know a university that I used to teach many years ago that they took a deliberate decision that the goal for the undergraduate program is just accreditation. The goal for the postgraduate program is ranking. Yeah, I had a dialogue with the dean of the school then who said that's their goal. Their goal is that for the undergraduate program, they are focusing on accreditation. For the postgraduate program, they are focused on ranking. And so therefore, what that therefore means is that ranking has legal consequences. You can be arrested for running a program that is not accredited. Sorry, I take that back. That's a mistake. Accreditation has legal consequences. You can be arrested for running a program that is not accredited because there are legal consequences for running programs that are not accredited. Ranking, because it's non-mandatory, it's voluntary, and it's done by private institutions or social sectors, it has no mandatory effect, so there's nothing bad about it. So my first advice to parents is stop focusing on ranking. The first thing you should do is accreditation. Start by accreditation, then go to ranking. And if you're in Nigeria, I've said there are two types of accreditation in Nigeria. There is a professional accreditation and there is a general university accreditation. Before you can start a university in Nigeria, a course in Nigeria, so University of Ibadan wants to start human resources management, it needs to go to the National Universities Commission to get approval to start. So the National University Commissions will give it approval and say, you can start this program. And they'll give them 3 years, 2 to 3 years before they can to assess how well they are doing. In the second, third, fourth year, they will come to the school and they will come and do an accreditation, right? So they will come and do an accreditation, and the accreditation, they will get either of 3 results. Result 1 is full accreditation. What does that mean? Full accreditation says you are allowed to carry out that program for the next 5 years. That means you have enough staff, you have enough buildings, you have enough resources, you have enough of ABCD. Full accreditation, option 1. Option 2 is what they call interim accreditation. So in the case of interim, you may not get full accreditation, maybe because you are lacking in terms of lecturers, or maybe you're lacking in terms of classrooms, or maybe you're lacking in terms of whatsoever. Then there is what is called the denied accreditation. So in Nigeria, you can have three types of accreditation: the full accreditation by NUC, the interim accreditation by the NUC, or the denied. When it's denied, immediately they deny it, they are going to send a message to JAM not to advertise people to come in till you do that. You'll be shocked that some of those big universities that have big names have had their programs denied. Big universities like University of Ibadan had this accreditation denied at a point for pharmacy. Big university like University of Obafemi had this accreditation defined for programs like law and dentistry at some point. So parents, the first advice I want to give tonight is first check, is the program accredited by the NUC? First check. If they said it's accredited, please ask them the type of the result of the accreditation. Did they get full accreditation? If they have full accreditation, their full accreditation is for 5 years. If they have interim accreditation, which means they are still checking them, it's for a maximum of 2 years. NUC will come back to assess, and then has the accreditation been denied? The first question as a parent you ask is this program accredited by the NUC? Tick 1. Tick 2. If the course is a professional course, the next question to ask is the course accredited by the professional body? So I want to read law, I want to read accounting, I want to read estate management, I want to read architecture, I want to read HR. Once there is a regulator, the next question a parent should ask is he accredited by that regulator? Because the law in Nigeria, for example, says that an accreditor should be able to come and accredit a program. So if you go to University of Ibadan, you go to University of Toronto, and the medical council has not accredited the medical program, you are not going to become a doctor. That's the second thing. Please note, when you are checking that, make sure you are checking the name that was accredited. I give you an instance. There's a university in Ogun State, I'm not going to mention the name. It has a faculty of law. The Nigerian Council for Legal Education has allowed it to run a program to do law, so they can go, their graduates can go to the law school, right? Now, the question you need to then ask is, that school also has a program called international law. That is not accredited by the professional institution. Therefore, if you read law, you will go to law school and you become a legal practitioner in Nigeria. If you read international law, you will not become a lawyer because you will not go to law school. So you are not just asking what is the, has it been accredited by, you must ask, what is the name of the program accredited by the professional institute? Many universities today in Nigeria will tell us our faculty of engineering is accredited. Many of them are not telling the truth. Professional bodies don't accredit faculties, they accredit courses. So a university will have accreditation from Nigerian COREN to do mechanical engineering. They will have accreditation to do electrical engineering. Then they're going to start mechatronics engineering. Mechatronics engineering is not accredited by that school. So you will not become an engineer even though you studied engineering. So very, very important. You must, so I said the first thing, check the accreditation by NUC. Check the status of accreditation, their parents. Number 2, check the accreditation by the professional institute. If the professional institute did not accredit it, please don't select that program, because your child will graduate but will not become a professional, or maybe have to do a longer exam. Then that is after you have passed these two, then you will now go and start checking for ranking. So there's a question that says, is a course accredited by the institution? Let me tell you how it starts. I was a professor, I was a teacher in Federal University of California, Accra. We decided we were going to start a program called estate management at a point, right? So you will write the program and all of that. I'm trying to answer the question of Mrs. Odukwe on Mrs. Biodun Odukwe. Now, so you take it to the board of studies or the faculty, they approve it, then it goes to the Senate. When it goes to the Senate, then you would then clearly do something different. The Senate will now send it to the NUC. That's the process. The NUCC will set up a visitation panel. The visitation panel will now say, we are give you permission to start, and then after 3 years, they'll now accredit the program. Please note, I want you to be very conscious of this. In Nigeria, I've mentioned it. Number one, accreditation by NUC. If it's a professional course, accreditation by the professional body. If it is, if it's not a professional course, then don't bother yourself. Then you want to talk about ranking. Please note, the criteria for professional accreditation is different from NUC accreditation. I'll give you an example. I'm going to use the Faculty of Law in Nigeria as an example. The Council of Legal Education of Nigeria says no faculty of law shall share a building with anyone. If you notice, go to your university. Your faculty of law will stand as a separate building. The only profession that the professional organization said you can't join it, so you can't have faculty of arts at the bottom and then have faculty of law. No, the council says you must have it as a separate building. So if your child wants to go and study law, and on the ground floor is faculty of medicine, and then on the next floor is faculty of law, that is not a recognized program. So those regulatory bodies decide that. Some of them have higher standards than NUC ones. I mean, so for example, I can become an HOD in a department wherever I teach any course, right? So I studied estate management, and I'm teaching in faculty of law, wheresoever I'm teaching. Once I teach up to 3 courses, I can contest to become the HOD based on NUC standard. Based on professional body standard, I will not be an HOD because I am not a member of the association. So I've talked about accreditation. Let's talk a bit about ranking. So there are different types of ranking, and it's important for us to put that at the back of our mind. There are generally 3 types of ranking. One, there's a ranking of the whole universities, right? There's a ranking of the whole university. So you're ranking University of Ibadan versus University of Toronto versus University of Calgary versus University of British Columbia versus University of Windsor. So you're ranking the own entire universities. The second type is what is called the ranking of subjects. Now, in this case, you are comparing Faculty of Law in University of Ibadan with Faculty of Law with Babcock, with Faculty of Law in ABU, with Faculty of Law in University of Windsor, with Faculty of Law in University of British Columbia. So you are not ranking the whole university, you are ranking the subject. And the third one is what they call niche ranking. In this case, you are ranking things like their contribution to sustainable development. You are ranking, for example, their age, or you are ranking all the universities less than 50 years old. So those are the 3 types of rankings that we generally have in the world. And then there are many ranking organizations. Please, parents and applicants, this is something I want you to also note. There are many organizations that does this ranking. So it's better for you to know which one you are doing. So I'm going to mention the top 5 that is seen as the most reputable. There is the one called QS World University Rankings. There is the one that is called the US News and World News Best Global University Rankings. There is the Times Higher Education Ranking. There is the Shanghai Ranking, and there is the National Taiwan Universities World University Rankings. Those are the 5 top rankings. There are other types of ranking, right? For example, Webnomics. Webnomics is just a ranking of what you have on the internet. So if a university like University of Ibadan will always do well in Webnomics, the reason is because of the fact that they have many lecturers, and each of those lecturers, if each of them has 10 published papers, they will do well on it. So those 5 ones, I think, is what we should put at the back of our mind. Please note that each of those rankings I mentioned, and as of today, there are over 20 types of ranking. Right? That in fact, the National Universities Commission, the regulatory body of universities in Nigeria, has its own ranking. They have not done in the last 2 years, but they have their own ranking. So there are different types of ranking. So if you are focused on ranking, please note the ranking criteria of what you are focused on, because some of those rankings is just what you can easily do and get results you want. So I've talked about the various types of ranking and things like that. Please note that Because a university is better ranked does not necessarily mean university is better, right? Don't forget, ranking is about criteria. There's a particular ranking of that is, for example, called the ARWU, right? That ranking says that part of what will determine the rank of the student of the school is how many of their old students and their current staff have won a Nobel Prize. So think about this, right? You attended University of Ibadan. Okay, look at Professor Wole Soyinka, for example. He won a Nobel Prize many years ago. Now let's assume he attended University of Lagos, right? The moment he got that Nobel Prize, University of Lagos will get a rank, will get marks because they are also there won a Nobel Prize, and they will shoot up in the ranking just because of that. Question: how does that help your child in year one? That's an old student who graduated 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, got a Nobel Prize. How does that show that that program is good? Do you know that it's actually possible that that program has actually even been cancelled in that school? So each of those ranking organizations uses criteria to rank. And some of those criteria are based on what they believe is right. Some measure count number of courses, number of professors they have produced, number of Nobel Prize winners. Some count reputation. They ask employers, if you have to choose between a student of Covenant and a student of Unilag, which one will you take? It's part of what some people put in ranking. So why are you using that to say which is better? I mean, so think about it. The current managers in most organizations in Nigeria were people that graduated 15, 20 years ago. 15, 20 years ago, there were not many of these private universities. So if you ask them to choose between Unilag and one school, they won't choose that school because the school did not even exist when they were around. So there are many things that make those assumptions. So a couple of things we need to think about is that, and I want to say this to parents, if your child is an undergraduate, ranking is not very, very important. I had the privilege of going to a university where somebody just won a Nobel Prize a couple of months this year. No, was it? Okay, well, I don't know. The last Nobel Prize, the person won the Nobel Prize. And I went to the university to talk to some of the students, and I was asking them the question. I'm trying to look for this man that won a Nobel Prize, and they were like, they didn't know him. Why? The man is a professor in this school. He won a Nobel Prize. The university ranking has shot up. But the question is, this professor only teaches masters and PhD students. So for the guy who is an undergraduate, he actually doesn't know this guy. So the fact that a Nobel laureate is a professor in your department, does that mean that he's going to teach you? So as parents, you must look at when the university says, oh, we're the number one ranked in this, you must say them, please, can we see the criteria? Because it doesn't mean, in fact, it's so bad that the government of the of Scotland and Wales and the UK took a decision a couple of years back, 2017, yeah. They said they realized as most of these courses, most of these universities that are doing when the ranking, they are not doing anything to teach people. So you will see a University of A, University of B, University of C is good ranking, but they don't teach well. The students are not well taught. So the government said they're going to come up with something else, their own ranking. They called it the Teaching Excellence Framework. You can Google it, started in 2017, that covers UK, Scotland, and Wales. It's a ranking of the teaching in the university. Shall I shock you? Some of the universities that are the highest ranking in the Teaching Excellence Framework Award in the US, in the UK, did not have high ranking in some of those other rankings. Do you get the scenario? So there is a ranking that checks how well children are taught in the university. So as a parent, which one are you more bothered with? Is it a ranking that gives people marks because their old student got a Nobel Prize, or a ranking that shows that this child is taught well? I think the bigger importance things to a parent should be whether the child is taught well or not. So I think we should look out for those rankings that are such that promotes teaching, not research, as the case may be. Again, another thing we need to be very conscious of is things like Some universities are effectively able to game those rankings and they do very well. I'm not going to mention the university so that you don't get annoyed with me, but I know universities that game the rankings. They just walk towards the methodology and they are fine. There's a particular university in Nigeria. It wanted the VC. They had a new VC whose goal was to increase the ranking of their university. They wanted to do well in the ranking, and all they just did, they just called all their lecturers to a room and said all the lecturers should go and upload all their published papers on Google Scholar, because many of those rankings use research metrics and some of them just rely on Google Scholar. Some of them relies on the more advanced Nature that is a scientific journal. It's one of the top most in the world. So this university just say every lecturer just go and upload all your research work on Google Scholar. And the following year, that university was ranked the second best in Nigeria. Came out from like 20 something to second best. All that happened was that all the lecturers uploaded their research output there. Has anything happened in that school? Nothing has really happened in that school, but the ranking went better. There's another university that does well in a particular ranking. I'm not going to mention university because I don't want to get into trouble. That university is in Nigeria. What that university did was to go and carry the methodology for one of the rankings and use it to develop its curriculum. So they built their school around one ranking. That's why that university will always do well in that ranking, but may not do well in other rankings. Why? Because they I won't say they game the system, but they are going out to do well in the ranking based on criteria. So one of the things we need to do is to remember that. Please note, and this is something I want to say on the general notes. Generally in Canada, the higher the ranking of a university, the more the tuition fees for international students. I'm saying that on a general note in Canada, please. So, for example, in Canada, the top ranked universities in Canada, like University of Toronto, University of McGill, are some of the most expensive universities in Canada, and they are some of the best ranked universities. So many universities in Canada, they don't charge Canadians higher, but they charge international students higher because of ranking. So parents, if you know that you are struggling, don't target those very high ranking schools, because what they do in those schools is that those schools increase their school fees. It's part of one of the things they use to show that they are a well-ranked place. So, for example, somebody who wants to go to a University of Toronto, for example, for Nigeria, may be paying between 45,000 to 65,000 for a session. Yeah, 45 to 65,000. Well-ranked university. If that person wants to go to a University of Windsor, University of Regina, maybe the person will be paying 17, 18, 19,000, but his colleague is paying 45,000 to study the same course. So if you are changing dollars to naira, then you want to ask yourself, please note, let me be very objective with you here. Ranking is not as important as we make it to be. Don't forget, at the end of the day, what your child needs is learning. I mean, there was a time in Nigeria I had the privilege of teaching in 2 universities. In fact, I always tell people that I had the privilege of teaching in 5 higher institutions in Nigeria. So I would teach in a university in this. So think about it. I taught in Futa at a point, that's in Akure. Then I taught at University of Lagos at some point. Then I taught at the SEMA Center. I taught the business school of the University of Ibadan in the SEMA branch in Lagos. And then I was teaching in Lagos Business School of Pan-African University. Same me, right? In terms of MBA ranking, out of those 4 schools I mentioned, the Lagos Business School ranking is in the top 100 in the world. The Lagos Business School ranking. I was on their faculty. So I go to teach at Lagos, and I was part of what made them become that. But it's the same me that will go to teach in Unilag. It's the same me that will go to teach in Futa. It's the same me that will go and teach at the SEMA Center of the University of Ibadan. Right? It's my same notes. It's my same. I don't go to Lagos where I say, okay, I'm teaching I class, and then I go to Unilag. No, it's still the same me. So some universities will not do well in the rank. It does not mean it's not the same professor. So for example, go to, I don't know whether that has changed, go to Babcock University many years ago in their medical school. Many of their professors are from University of Ibadan. You will likely see that Babcock will do well in ranking than University of Ibadan in some rankings where University of Ibadan will do well. So don't let ranking drive you if you want to send your child abroad, particularly to Canada. If you're sending your child to school in Canada, that child will be paying more just because the university is well ranked. Please note that. Please, if your child will be attending university in Nigeria, ensure that they have professional accreditation in that program. I'm begging you, I'm begging you, I'm begging you. Same in Canada. So for example, if your child wants to come and study nursing in Canada, it must be recognized to write NCLEX, as that child will never become a medical doctor. Please, like I said, don't just say, oh, don't let them tell you, oh, the program is recognized by a professional institute. Ask them, what name was registered? So if the Nursing Council and the Provincial Government of Canada says the name of the program is Medical Lab Science, we recognize Medical Lab Science. A university now decides to call it Medical Lab Engineering. That's not a recognized program. Your child will never become a medical scientist because that's not the name that was registered. I've given the example of a university in Nigeria that has Council of Legal Education approval and accreditation to run a law program in the Faculty of Law, but they have also created a program called International Law and Diplomacy. You will not become a lawyer if you study that course. If you go to University of Lagos, for example, University of Lagos has a program of, I think they call it MILD, Masters of International Law and Diplomacy. Is that University of Ibadan or Babcock? One of those schools have those programs. You will be in the Faculty of Law. Your department is under Faculty of Law. The program is recognized by the National Universities Commission, but the program is not recognized by the Council of Legal Education. That child will graduate. The child will not become a lawyer. I'm mentioning specific courses so that you can understand what I'm saying. The name of the course recognized by the Medical Council is Bachelor of MBBS. This school now says my own is going to be MBBK. You will not become a doctor, though you spend 5 years in university. The name of the program is Mechanical Engineering, recognized by COREN. The name of the program is Electrical and Electronics Engineering. Your university goes to start a program called Electrical Engineering. COREN will not let them become registered engineer. COREN will register a program called Mechanical Engineering. In fact, let me tell you the funniest one. This has become an issue in Canada, and I know it was an issue in Nigeria. Computer engineering. Yes. The Council of Engineers in Canada said there is nothing called computer engineering. That course they call computer engineering, it is not engineering. And between me and you, if you know engineering, you know that thing they call computer engineering is not engineering, right? You know what happens when you study engineering. In your first year, you know the courses we all take in the School of Engineering. In the second year, you know everybody takes time mode, takes fluid, takes maths, takes this. If you don't do that, it's not engineering. So in Canada, they said they should stop calling those guys computer engineers because they are not engineers. I know for a fact that those conversations have also come up in Nigeria. Those people who study computer engineering, are they engineers? In many countries today, they are saying they are not engineers. So you must know what is recognized by the regulator, in this case the NUC, and also by the professional body, and ensure that's what your child does. Before I start taking questions, I'm just going to talk a couple of myths or beliefs that are not true. And then finally, I'll talk about 9-10 mistakes we should all avoid. Myth one is, if a school is popular or well-ranked, it is a good school. That's not true. There is no relationship between ranking and whether the school is very good or very bad. The person just did an assessment that he felt to be good at. Please note, if you notice, most universities target the ranking they know they will do well. Okay, so don't let me Don't let me spoil market. But let me mention this for the sake of people in Nigeria so that they can understand. The Times higher education ranking has different types of ranking. They have the global ranking that ranks all universities. Covenant University will always enter that ranking, and they will always do well. Yes, Covenant University will always do well in THA ranking, world ranking, right? I am not going to tell you the reason, but they will always do well. And check the record in the last 5-7 years. They're either first or second in Nigeria. Covenant University will always do well in ranking of THE global ranking. The same organization, the same THE, has a niche ranking called a ranking of the comparison of how the university meets the sustainable development goal, right? Covenant University will not do well in that ranking. Afe Babalola will always do well in that ranking. Why? Because the strategy that Covenant used for the global ranking is the strategy that Afe Babalola University has used for the sustainability ranking. So you will notice in the last 5 years, Afe Babalola is either first, second, or third. Actually, in like 3 years, Afe Babalola is the first in Nigeria in the ranking of sustainability by the same organization. So think about it. These organizations are global ranking. Number 1, Covenant University. Same organization does sustainability ranking. Number 1, Afe Babalola University, right? And those two universities have sustained it for years. Why? Because each university has realized that since your parents want ranking, okay, I will go and look for a ranking that can do well. And I will enter for that ranking and I will do well and I'll tell you I'm the best. If you notice this in Nigeria, right? If LASU does well in the ranking, you will see them advertise it. And that's the only ranking they will talk about. I told you that there are over 15 ranking organizations. Covenant, LASU, UI, University of Ife, Obafemi University will only make noise in the ones they do well, because nobody does well in all the rankings at the end of the day. You'll be shocked, for example, that the National Universities Commission also has its own ranking. And you'll be surprised. I hope nobody is going to fight me, or where are the people from about one university? That Redeemers University, Ede, is the best ranked university in Osun State. Obafemi University did not show up in the first 2. You can check the record of what I said. So think about it. Because a school is well ranked does not mean it is good. Number 2, another myth is that if a program is ranked well, then that means it is globally acceptable. Maybe not. Maybe not. A program may do well in a ranking in Nigeria or another one ranking and struggle there. There are actually some ranking organizations that don't even take universities in Nigeria. They don't believe we have good enough universities, so they don't even take them in the first place. Number 3 is that any course offered in Canada is automatically licensable and recognizable. Please, I beg you in the name of God. There are programs in universities in Canada, or much more in colleges and universities, that will not even secure you a postgraduate work permit. This is more important for programs in colleges, right? Very, very important for you to note. So because they say, people say, oh, education is better in Canada than Nigeria. So you just say, okay, my child can go and study everything. Please note, don't let that get you there. I'm going to make this note for those who want their children to study medicine, that because your child will gain admission to a university in Canada, it still needs a space to go to medical school after 4 years. And I know for a fact the average person does not get into those schools. So please don't get into those myths. Finally, the last myth is that because the university is ranking well, therefore they are teaching well. Not true. I've given the example of that from the UK. I'm going to start to take questions very soon. I'm just going to talk about 9-10 mistakes parents must not make in that. 1, please don't ever allow your child to go to a university without checking the accreditation status. Remember I said you must check 2 dimensions of accreditation. 1, NUC accreditation. What is the status? Approved, full approval, denied, or interim? Ask before the child applies for the school. 2, professional accreditation. Is the child studying science lab tech? Does he have accreditation by the professional institute? Is he a law program? Does the law program, law regulator approves of it? Medicine. Ask yourself that very, very, very question. Please, I beg of you in the name of God, when you are now doing that inquiry about professional accreditation, please don't only ask, is the regulatory body accredited? Also ask, how many slots did they give you? Very important. I am not going to mention universities so that I will not spoil markets. So, for example, law, to study law. So, the National University Committee says, University of K, you can admit 100 students to study law. Right? That's NUC. The Council of Legal Education says, we don't have space in law school. You know, when you finish law, you have to go to law school. So the same University of K, we only have spaces for 75 students that will go to law school. Right? Remember, NU says take 100 students. Legal Council says take 75 students. Your child applies. You know what the university is open? The university will admit 100. They will follow NUC. They will not follow professional institutes. They are hoping that some of those students will not reach final year. I'm not telling you myth. I'm telling you what happens in Nigeria. So they admitted 100. They know there is only space for 75 people that will go to law school. But they believe that some students will drop out, some people will change course, some people will fail, some people... I don't want to talk about morbid reasons why they have. But they believe that by the time they get to final year, they will have reduced from 100 to 75. Sometimes it happens, but sometimes it doesn't happen. 90 of them get to final year. You know what they will do? They will just present the name of 75 students and ask the others to stay at home for next year. In Nigerian law school, that means waiting for another 1 year. Check many of the private universities. There are students who have finished the law program and they are waiting 2 years after. They have not gotten slot. So the other thing I must emphasize that if the child is studying a professional course, please ask, what is the slot you are given? There are people, for example, who went to study medicine. Oh, things are better now. Ekiti State University, University of Abuja, there was a time people will spend between 9 and 12 years to graduate. Why? At the point in which they started medicine, the medical council had not accredited them. So they started the program. When they got to year 3, when they should write their first MBA exam, remember that first MBA exam is not a university exam, it's a university that has oversight by the professional institute. They got into trouble. And there was a time Ekiti State University, like I said, it has changed. University of Abuja, that has also changed. So please ask that question. How many slots do you have? Don't make that mistake. Number 2 mistake people make is that people don't understand this methodology of ranking, or they focus too much on ranking. Third mistake is that people use ranking as the only benchmark to determine where their children should school. Another mistake is that people use old glory. Old glory. You know, when we were young, I mean, some of the people watching this program are in their 40s, in their 50s. You know the universities that were the reigning universities then, right? University of, in those days, of University of Ibadan, University of Ife, Uni, Ben. There are still parents that still use those same mindset to determine which university is good and not good. That's wrong. Some of those universities have lost the glory. I told you, pharmacy was denied in University of Ibadan some years ago. University of Ibadan, Obafemi University, Olo University Ife lost accreditation. The accreditation of Nigerian University Commission. You don't. I think you can understand what it means to lose accreditation of a Nigerian regulator. Obafemi lost accreditation for his law program, lost accreditation for his dentistry program. Yes, you can verify what I just said. So the mistake we make is that we think it is that UI we went to. It is that IFE we knew. It is those big names that get us excited. They lost accreditation because they did not have lecturers. The irony of it was that, you know, if you're in Osun State, if you know Osun State very well, you have IFE. If you're coming from Ibadan, down the road, before you get to Ibadan, if you turn to your left, you get to Ede, then you get to Osogbo, right? Osogbo, Ede, that axis, then you come to Ife. The university in Ede, the Redeemed University run, got accreditation the year Ife lost. Why did Ife lose accreditation? They said they didn't have enough lecturers. I couldn't believe that. So when I got it, I sent a message to all my friends who were lawyers from Ife, and gratefully I had a number of friends who graduated from Ife law. I said, how can it be heard that your school I mean, these are people that graduated from university before me, will lose accreditation because they don't have enough lecturers. So please don't use old glory. Obafemi University, as you used to call it, Oba Awon University, it is no longer the current Oba. There are now different Obas. Like I tell parents, if you want your child to study computer science, there are some universities that has become the Oba of universities for computer science. If you want your child to study law, some universities has become the Oba of University of Law. There are now so many Obas. Please note, some universities don't bother a lot about accreditation, but they bother a lot about connection and network. That's another mistake you should not make. I'll give you an instance. You want to study medicine or nursing in Babcock University. Babcock University is owned by Seventh-day Adventists. The network of Seventh-day Adventist universities in the world is the same. There's a network of Seventh-day Adventists. So, if your child gets to year 4 in Babcock and wants to go and continue to study medicine in the US or in UK, and your child goes to another 7-day program, they're going to recognize all his credit automatically. He won't lose 1 year. I think that's a better thing than running after accreditation, right? Afe Babalola University has copied the same model for its medical program. You know, when people argue and say, Afe Babalola University is very expensive, the medicine is 8 million, 9 million per session. I always tell people, that program, the medical program in Afe Babalola University is linked with Johns Hopkins University. You can start your program in Afe Babalola. In year 4, year 5, you can go and continue in Johns Hopkins. And you continue in Johns Hopkins, you graduate, you get license to practice medicine in US and start earning dollars. So between me and you, if you can afford it as a parent, which one makes more sense? You send your child to Ife or to Akungba or to Osu or to University of Ibadan. Your child finishes and can go and teach in some, can go and practice medicine in some place. But a university says in your 4th year and your 5th year, you have a choice to go and go anywhere. I know that FUTA also did some linkages for universities recently. So that's another mistake we should not make. Please don't choose courses based on universities based on popularity or cost. You will be shocked, for example, how some universities have become popular in subject. And that's another mistake I want to mention. Please, if you want to focus on ranking, focus on subject ranking, not university ranking. If my school is very strong in law, why don't you send your child to my school to study law? Doesn't need to come to study marketing, right? Because I give you some instances. Afe Babalola is a legal luminary, is a lawyer. He started at university. The law program of Afe Babalola University is excellent. Excellent. Why? The owner is a lawyer. Not only do they have good lecturers, they have experienced lecturers. They hired someone to come and teach law in that university in Ado-Ekiti. The person earns, is it ₦1 million to come and teach twice a month? One of the foremost lawyers in Nigeria. I mean, you know, Professor, you know, Dr. Afe Babalola now, I mean, renowned lawyer. If he puts a call to Mike Ezekome and say, I want you guys to come and please talk to my, they're going to show up. Mike Ezekome teaches there. All these big names teaches there. And that's what makes that's what your child wants. I mean, imagine your child is in year 4, year 5. The person who is teaching them law of evidence is the person that wrote the textbook on law of evidence. I mean, so some universities are already developing niches, maybe because of the peculiarity of the owners. Elizade University in Laramoki, for example, is developing a lot of strength in engineering. Remember, Elizade he brings in Toyota, he's an engineering, he makes money from engineering, right? So the university is coming on board to become very, very strong. Now, some universities are not necessarily strong, but they are using the sense of the good university to run their university. So, for example, there's a university owned by Deeper Life Bible Church in Lagos called Anchor University. What did Anchor University do? They wanted to become strong in law. Professor Agomo is was a former dean of the Faculty of Law, University of Lagos. She retired, she turned 60, and Anchor University brought her to become the dean. So that's University of Lagos, and University of Lagos Anchor branch. When Covenant one Babco was going to start medicine, virtually all the professors were from the University of Ibadan. So no, some of those universities are becoming strong in various areas. Please, another mistake we should not make is because it is foreign, it is better. Between me and you, in terms of content, there are some courses you don't need to send your child to study to go abroad. I'm saying in terms of courses. I'm not saying in terms of exposure. But when it comes to content, your child is good enough to study Nigeria because there is no difference between me and you, except for exposure and various reasons. There's no comparative advantage studying medicine at Babala University versus studying in University of Hopkins. Medicine is relatively stable in terms of production of new knowledge, right? So very, very important. And then the last thing I want us to avoid as a mistake is the myth of my child knows what he's doing. I get concerns a number of children today that will say their parents never spoke to them before they selected courses to do in the university, whether it's university in Nigeria or Canada. I mean, the child is the one that decides he wants to study this course. The child doesn't even know the courses. So maybe he just likes the name. When we're younger, we assume that any course that ends with G is a very serious minded course. So, like sociology, psychology, philosophy, we believe those ones were the courses that show you are brilliant. And therefore, we wanted to do it just to prove that we are brilliant. So, it's important for us as parents to take time to ask these questions and to be involved in the selection of these courses by the people that we are training. Please note, it's your role, it's your responsibility to ensure that your child gets the best in life. So, I'd like to ask if people have questions, you just take the questions. I've talked a lot about accreditation. I've talked a lot about ranking, and it's important for us to put that. So I'll be willing to take a couple of questions now. But some of the questions that came while I was talking, I addressed them when I was saying them. So if anybody still has any question, please, you can ask your question now. It's important for us to be very conscious of these things. Let me explain something to you in Nigeria, for example. If you studied estate management, that's what I studied, and your university, for example, does not have professional accreditation, you're going to write more exams than somebody who went to a accredited school, even though you have a first class. Okay, question from Mrs. Kunlikpe. Thank you so much for this expose. Can you recommend 3 schools that are cost-effective and qualitative teaching in engineering in Canada? Do these schools accept WAEC results? Do they also give scholarships? So let me take them one at a time. Yes, the schools accept WAEC, NECO. I am not aware any university in Canada accept NAPTEP, but I know they accept WAEC and NECO. All you just need to do is you give them the WAEC scratch card. They'll use it to access the results. So they accept WAEC results. So you don't need to bother yourself with that. So the question again is, a cost-effective and qualitative teaching in engineering in Canada? Let me say this. Because ranking is about 1, 2, 3, 4, there's nothing you will do. Somebody will come 1, somebody will come 2. So when they say university is the 28th ranked one in Canada, that university is a great university. It's only that they had to rank somebody 28th. So generally, the smaller the university, the better for people coming from Nigeria. I say this because many Nigerians like those big name universities, University of Calgary, University of Toronto, great schools. But don't forget that people coming to those schools that your child is coming to it, your child may struggle because they are new. I'm going to give you this very good example. University of Calgary, University of Toronto, engineering, for example, the average students who they admit, the average Canadian student that we admit will have an average of 96-95% from high school. So think about it. Those schools that you mentioned, University of Calgary, University of Toronto, some University of Waterloo, some programs, the average Canadian in that school graduated with an average of 96, 97%. Think about that very well. I didn't say graduate with 70%, 97%. And you can verify what I just said. They will tell you that no child, I remember I was checking a program for University of Toronto. They have it as part of a requirement that no child whose average is less than 95% should apply. Please, that 95% is not 95% in math. It's 95% from beginning of high school to high school on all the subjects. Do you understand? So that's the kind of people going to that University of Toronto, the Canadians going there. But University of Toronto wants money, right? Because they know international students pay well. Your child is brilliant, but he is a 75% brilliant child, right? His average is 75 in Nigeria. He's coming to class with people that are 97%. It could be a big struggle. So my suggestion is that look for smaller universities. I always tell people, don't miss it. University of Regina is in Saskatchewan. Great university, gives you the best. Small. University of Windsor is in Ontario. Great university, gives you the best. Western University is in Ontario, gives you good education. Smaller class sizes is not the most brilliant people, so your child is not coming to rub shoulder with the geniuses. Now, the next question she asks is that, do they give scholarships? No. Let me say this very clearly. Your child is unlikely to get a scholarship in year one. It can get a scholarship going forward. So my recommendation for parents is that if your child is very brilliant, pay the fees for year one, then the child starts to look for scholarship for year two, year three. But it could be very difficult. Most schools do not give scholarship. If you are thinking about scholarship at undergraduate level, it's better to go to America, not to come to Canada. The reason is because there are more scholarships in UK, in US than in Canada. Okay. So I hope I answered that question. Yes, I think I've done that. Mrs. Omotola Yeko says, do you have any insight in the cost strength of Nile University in Abuja? I don't want to talk specifically, but the Nile has a value. You know, they come from the Turkish background and they have a sense of rigor. The rigor is very high in the undergraduate program in the NOW system. Remember, the NOW system is a system in Nigeria. They have secondary school, they have in Abuja, they have one in Arepo, around Arepo in Ogun State, and all of that. And these are very good schools. So the cost strength is significantly high. I know some of you will have problem because you'll be wondering that, okay, it could be, there seems to be a lot of Islamic tendency, but it's a very rigorous program they have. So yes, so I will endorse the Now University in Abuja. Yes, but I think you should still do your inquiries much more. Okay, Mr. Kune Fatai is asking that question from me, asking me. Yes, I hope I answered that question, Mrs. Omolara. Let me know if I did. How can I know the strengths or strong areas of Nigerian universities? Well, it's a function of many things. Check the quality of their graduates, check the quality of their professors. So I studied estate management. Today, I do HR. When they are doing professional institution of Starter Institute of Estate Profession, Starter Institute of Personnel Management annual conference, what are the professors they invite? Right? Check. You are also a professional. When you go to your professional job, do they bring professors to come to your annual conference? Where are they from? It always gives you an idea of the professors that are old, that are strong, that are not strong. When their government is forming committee on river blindness or whatever, which universities don't bring professors from? It already gives an idea of when there's a problem in Nigeria or something happens, where do they call people to come and talk in Arise TV or in channels or TVC? Right? When they say there's a problem in universities or which university do they bring people from? And when you hear them, you will know that this person on that substance, you know. So those are some of the things you can start to look out for when you are trying to know which university has strengths and all of that. Now, the other thing you can think about is that there are some courses that they are basis to compare. So, for example, there is a Nigerian law school that that the result shows which university does well. The Nigerian law school used to tell us how many first class graduates come from different universities. And universities like Afebalola, LASU were dusting some of those older universities. Of course, you know how Nigerian works. Some of them are going to tell the Nigerian law school not to release that information again. They don't release any longer. That's why you don't know. But those are standards you can use. I hope you're satisfied with that. Thanks for your feedback, Mr. Olanrewaju, for your question. Hey, Professor Igbason, thanks for joining. I really appreciate. Professor Igbason was my senior in the university, and then currently is the vice chancellor of Mafeson University. That's another university I've been keeping an eye on. Mafeson University is in Ogun State. It's close to Lagos. One of the things I generally encourage people is that let your child go to a university that you can visit them often. And it's not because he's here. I personally know, and anybody who attended university in Nigeria will know this, your lowest grade CGPA will likely be in your first year. Why? You are trying to do a lot of transition. You are trying to understand how things are changing. So if you have a lot of family support, it helps a lot. So I tell people, generally allow your child, particularly if your child is young, to go to a university close to where you can visit often. Now, with the level of insecurity in Nigeria, Ibadan used to be close, is no more closer. So universities in that Lagos catchment area, Lagos, Ogun State, and people are very wise now. The number of universities in Ogun State is so much. All of them serving the families from Lagos. You can just think about a Mafeson University. You can think about a Babcock. You can think about all those universities there. And then depending on where you live in Lagos, we also determine which part of Ogun State. So if you stay in Yanopaja, Abule Egba, and Co., then you want to think about all the universities in that axis of Covenant University. If you live closer on the mainland, and maybe you live in Ikeja, Ojodubega, and all of that, then start to think about the Mafeson University, all those places. Same for if you're in Ibadan. There are universities, many private universities in Ibadan now you can make a choice from. Most of my friends that know me, I don't close my mouth to say it. If you can afford it, send your child to a private university in Nigeria. If you can afford it. Please note, I went to a public university. I went to Federal University of Technology, Akure, and I'm proud that I went there. But with what we know in Nigeria today, and if you allow to speak with the vice chancellor of some of those universities, you'll be shocked to know that some of them will agree with me that yes, it's better for you to have your child attending those private universities. I got the shock of my life when I went to Abeokuta. I can't forget that experience. I went to Abeokuta. I was still thinking, should my child attend this school? And then I saw one man bring his son there. So I asked the owner, I said, so tell me, why that man looks familiar? He said, yeah, that's the vice chancellor of. I was like, eh? The vice chancellor of this school brought his own child to this school in the same Abeokuta. I said, like no story. There's no need for me to argue with that. I mean, if the vice chancellor of a university, they have a program in his own university, he refuses to take his head, brings him to a private where he will be paying school fees, then that means he knows it's better. So my general recommendation is for us to look for universities that are close by, university that has a lot of connection with the industry. This is something that I think is very, very, very important. There's a professor of political science that said the university asked him to come and teach once a week, and they'll be paying $1 million per month. I mean, think about this. You're a professor, your salary in Nigeria is like 550,000. And then a school tells somebody, come and teach one class 4 times a month, and they'll give $1 million. Talks about the value. And one of the things that many people don't realize about this employability issue is that, you see, those professors, those teachers they bring from outside are the ones that open doors for people. I told you, I used to teach at the Lagos Business School, which I've done for 13 years. I was trying to remember when I even started. I think maybe like 15, 16 years I've been teaching at the Lagos Business School. There was a class where, this was many years ago, Aliko Dangote, wasn't this, he has always been a rich man, was one of the guest lecturers. Aliko Dangote, yes, Alhaji Aliko Dangote. He finished teaching the class, I can't remember whatever the topic, and just said, how many of you want, the way he talks very, very gently, how many of you want to come and work with me? And people are wondering, is this a test question? Is this a test? Some people raise their hand and it's okay, HR, get their number, let them come for interview. And he picks most of them. So that's part of what happens that in terms of this employer. Don't think about a university that has one professor who is very good in theory. Yes, it's good for the professors to be good, but there must be a connection with industry. Where are those professors? Your child is studying law, and somebody can bring a Falana to come and teach class. Somebody can bring a Yemi Oshibajo to come and teach every day. I mean, when you read court cases and they say this is, in Nigeria, all the gubernatorial election that has been won in court, the person INEC declared A the winner, then somebody goes to court and it's turned. All the cases in Nigeria, the lawyers involved are less than 10. Right? They will win the case for Osun State, win the case for Ogun State. They are less than 10 lawyers. So imagine, and those people have become gurus of law of evidence. Imagine as a person teaching a child law of evidence. Just imagine. I mean, you know what that child will be. Even if the child is not brilliant, think about a Mike Ezekome teaching you, and how it to give you one gravitas, or a Conshola Ajayi teaching you. He teaches at Babcock, for example. Yes, from my great Oga, Mr. Asena has a question. Why are most universities accepting more students for limited programs by regulatory? There is one university, Southwest, that admitted almost 400 students when the council only approved 100 for them. I know that university. What will be the fate of those university students and the money paid? To me, most private universities are using them to make money at the expense of parents. I know the university you are talking about. You also know that university we are talking about. Yes, they do it. I told you. It happens a lot in medicine particularly. And the reason is just money. The fees that are highest in Nigerian private universities is medicine and law. So what do? They will just come and say, we will take 200 people, and they believe they will drop out. But parents don't say anything, so that's why it happens. It's us that should change that when we go to court. Okay, question from Mrs. Kolawole Adebola. What will you say about strategic communications in PAU? Excellent place. One advantage of those universities close to Lagos is that they have access to current resources. Do you understand? So, for example, imagine you are teaching a course, and I'm going to give example, and Debola Williams is invited to come and speak to you, or even leader Ikeji, right? Or the owner of Naira Land. So one of the advantages of Pan-African University, and because I also teach there, so maybe I may have a bias, is that they have access to industry, and they actually believe that as a professor there or as a teacher there, you are supposed to have industry relevance. So part of what will determine your promotability as a lecturer in that university is how many consultancies you get from outside. So you are not just supposed to be good academically, people must refer to. So yes, I will recommend that strategic communications from PAU. But please, let me mention this for the sake of those people here. Nigeria, we used to have a course called Mass Comm. Some people have decided to say that Mass Comm should become a faculty, so they have broken it down. But there's still a course called Mass Comm in the faculty of Mass Comm. My suggestion is that please don't let them get you to those broken down ones. Those broken down ones are too narrow for an undergraduate. One challenge is that we're dealing with Nigeria is that we're producing too many narrow programs at the undergraduate level. For example, this is my own personal opinion. I don't think Nigerians should be doing a program called petroleum engineering. I think we should only have chemical engineers, and then you only do petroleum or mechanical or reservoir engineer as master's level. That's my personal opinion. Unfortunately, it has happened in architecture, it has happened in mass comm. I think we should avoid that. Engineering courses in PAU. You have eaten it on there. You said since they are linked to LBS, they are stronger in business-related courses, and their engineering courses may not be strong, especially mechatronics engineering. Let me be very careful to say this. I think you can be sure of Pan-African University's commitment to standards, excellence, and quality. I can say that without thinking twice. There is a consistent methodology in that school that ensures they do things the right way. Yes, in terms of expectation, you will expect that their business school is stronger, but the engineering school is very good too. That would be my recommendation. That I will say, why don't you go to that school? You will be happy with what you see there because they have a methodology, they have a culture for excellence. So this question you have asked me about mechatronics engineering, I hope you will not be disappointed with my response, ma. I don't think any Nigerian child should study mechatronics engineering. That's my view. And I hope I didn't disappoint you. Will I give you the reason? What's mechatronics engineering? Mechatronics engineering is essentially mechanical and electrical engineering combined together. That's what it is. Mechanical, electrical combined together. That's not the technical definition, but just to make it simple for you. So, why will I hire you when I can hire a mechanical engineer? Please note, the most malleable engineering field is the mechanical engineering. That's the engineer you can throw anywhere in engineering and he will cope. So mechanical engineering is already malleable enough, right? When you have a malleable program like that, then send your child there. I always tell people, if you tell me your child wants to study engineering, I just tell them, study mechanical engineering. He can go elsewhere after. He can go to oil, he can go to construction, he can go whatever. If he can't do mechanical, let him do electrical. If he can't do electrical, let him do chemical. After those three, maybe I will add civil. After those four, every other one is becoming too narrow or too sophisticated. You would not believe it. I did HR in the oil industry for many years. The greatest number of engineers we have in the oil industry are not petroleum engineers. No. There are three segments of the oil industry: upstream, midstream, and downstream. There is no petroleum engineer in the downstream sector of the oil industry. There is no petroleum engineer in the midstream sector of the oil industry. There are few in the upstream. There are actually more mechanical engineers in the upstream than petroleum engineers. And you can verify what I just said. Why? The mechanical engineer can be trained. I can train the mechanical engineer to learn reservoir if he's very good in chemical engineering. I can teach the mechanical engineer to go and work in 7-Up to be making cocks for me. I can take the mechanical engineer to go to work in construction. I can train the mechanical engineer to understand some little bit of civil engineering. I can train the mechanical engineer to... So, why bother studying mechatronics when mechanical is already malleable? I would recommend the child goes to study mechanical engineering and then can now do a master's in electrical. Then he has the blend. So rather than having mechatronics, he has mechanical and he has electrical. That would be my recommendation, not mechatronics in Nigeria, because the market is not there for them. I hope I answered that question, ma. Oh, okay. I think I need to respect people's time. My brother, Mr. Akeju is saying, what about University of Technology offering medicine, nursing, and medical courses? I honestly don't know what to say. And you are my kindred brother. We both went to a federal University of Technology. My university now does everything, medicine, nursing. But Yoruba people will say on Okon. I think those universities just want to have more students, and they want to do that. Now, the funniest thing, let me, and this is now the confusion, is that they just mess up things for their students, right? Mess up things big time. Mr. Akeju, some of my old schoolmates in Futa here, I can see Mr. Ige, I can see a couple of people, Mr. Okun, who are all in Futa. So in Futa, you graduate with Bachelors of Technology rather than BSc. And they never saw it as a problem. Never. Until I came to Canada. And I said I had a Bachelor of Technology in estate management, in real estate. And I was told somewhere that I cannot teach a course because they said I don't have a Bachelor of Science in real estate. And I'm like, no, it's the same. They said, no, it can't be the same thing. You have a Bachelor of Technology. So you cannot teach business real estate because you have a Bachelor of Technology. You should go and teach in the technology school where I say, Egbami, footage and we were using the same curriculum. But because our school is called University of Technology, they said we should have BTech. That other school should have BSc. Now, I was being punished because of that ridiculous argument that some people make. But it is what it is. I have a question on Facebook from Mr. Kayode Meku Yeku. He says, please, based on your insight, somebody is asking between biochemistry between Afe Babalola and now university. Mr. Yeku, I know you stay in Ogun State. First rule of thought, safety first. So a school in Ogun State is better. So I'm already feeling you should be thinking in that axis. If you want to go further to Oyo, to go to Ekiti State, better. But when you say now university in Abuja, think about it, traveling, going to see children, very important. I will not, your parenting role to see your child is as important as the quality of education the child will get. So my recommendation is don't throw your child to a faraway university. Be present as much as possible. So based on where I know you live, I will actually say, if you guys want to do biochemistry, why don't that child stay in Balola that is closer than that? Okay, I think I should start rounding up now. I don't have any question from anyone. My last request, and then I'll make it a day for today. I want to do a talk where I want to encourage people to go and study nursing. Yes, the best course to study today in Nigeria is nursing. Why? Because the government wants to promote nursing education. Between last year and this year, the federal government of Nigeria has expanded the amount of spaces to study nursing by over 100%. So think about it. 2 years ago, let's say there were only 100 spaces to study nursing in Nigeria. Today, it's about 225. So if you have a child who wanted to study medicine and will not gain admission, why are you asking a child to go and study biochemistry, microbiology? Why not nursing? I want to make that appeal. There are many children in this world that will do great as nurses, that we are forcing them to go and study medicine. They will be excellent nurses, but we're asking them to go and study medicine. So my recommendation, if you have a child who is in sciences, who has written JAM, medicine didn't make it, between me and you, Nigerian students, okay, so let's work with data. The most applied for course in Nigeria in the UTME is medicine. That's the most applied for. More people apply for medicine than people that apply, no, sorry, let me back up. More people apply to the faculty of medicine, faculty of health sciences, that has medicine, pharmacy, than any other faculty in Nigeria, right? That's why the average child will not gain admission to study medicine. The average person who wants to be a doctor in Nigeria will not be a doctor. Therefore, what is the closest thing to have to it? There's a sense in which somebody says, okay, I did not make medicine, I am going to study biochemistry. I did not make medicine, I'm going to study microbiology. Why not nursing? Because with a degree in nursing, you are going to come and resume work as a level 9 officer if you want to work for government, I think level 10, and you can become a professional. And with all this jackpot syndrome, you know for a fact, one of the most jackpot-cious courses in the world is nursing. So, and you know we will never solve the problem of nursing in the world. So, Mr. Yeku, if your child really likes taking care of people, when you say biochemistry, I would rather have said the nursing, degree in science, nursing. If the person is an entrepreneur, he has the license, he has the status to start a maternity clinic. And you know in Nigeria we born children easily. The person can just be delivering babies and be collecting money for that. If the person wants to work in government, you have friends who study civil engineering, maybe starting from level 8, he'll be starting from level 9, level 10, right? And still close and still be consulting. If he wants to jackpot, you know that before doctors started jackpotting in Nigeria, nurses have been going to Saudi Arabia since when I was in secondary school. So I think one of the things we need to start to encourage our young people is this idea of they thinking about nursing as an option. So let me thank everyone for today. I really appreciate your time. If you still have some questions, if you put it on the Facebook, I will respond to them later in the week and try to answer as many questions as I can. My goal in this program is just to help parents. I wish somebody told me this when I decided when I was going to go to university. Nobody told me there was anything called accreditation. No, I just chose university. In fact, one day I'll tell the story how I studied estate management. You will laugh because you wonder, how did you get here? Mr. Asena said medical lab science is better than biochemistry in Nigeria. Honestly, between me and you, this one that everybody in Nigeria, they will always say they have typhoid and what of those things. They need the lab scientists to check there. I mean, since I mean, I'm not, I'm not old, but I have never paid for the service of biochemistry in my life. I've never procured the service of a biochemist, but I don't know how many times I've gone to a lab to do a test. So it already, those already, you know, when people are saying, so which course is selling? I always tell people, but you ask yourself, wait, who are you paying for? Which services are you paying for on a regular basis? I mean, if you have procured the service of a lab scientist, your wife has, your son has, and you want to compare it to a biochemistry chemist, you ask yourself why. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. I will be willing to take more questions. Yes, Mrs. Modivola says, I will have gone for nursing if I know what I know now. Honestly, I agree with you. But if you still want to go, it's not too late. You can start nursing. I see the number of people that I see go to Babcock to study nursing. Old people who have my retired just say, I want to go and become a nurse. Because that thing is a money spinner, either anywhere you are in the world. So there's a question from Mr. Fatai to say, I have a child that has great potential and very brilliant, but when he goes to boarding school, he comes home with poor results. What can I do? Change the school. Change the school. That child may be better to not go to boarding school if you can let the child be going from home. Boarding school doesn't favor everyone. It's not everybody that should go to boarding school. I personally believe that one reason why children don't do well is that they don't like their school. If children don't like their school, don't like their teachers, don't like their friends, or don't have friends in school, they will not do well in school. Change the school. Bring the child home one time. This is long vacation. Let the child go to a school and follow up on a daily basis. I'm going to do a session on what I think parents should do during the long holiday. There. Bring the child home. Let him stop boarding house for one time. I personally give this advice. No child should start boarding house in secondary school. When you start secondary school in boarding house, go from home. Then when you adjust, you can go there. Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. I can't thank you well enough. Have a nice evening and have a great weekend ahead. And see you on my next session. Thank you. Bye-bye.